Was he when he was taking the cereal? Do we have the picture of the cereal box? When he was taking the cereal and spilling it all over the floor, how old there?
There is about 14 months.
14 months. And when he could start to communicate, he told you what he was trying to do. What did he say?
He said he was doing the volume of the boxes. He made equations. He was making his own equations. When he was about 3 years old, we were buying a gift for a lady in a little toy store near our house. And I was in a hurry. I was a busy mom. I was like, come along, Jacob, let's get this gift picked out. He stood in front of a music box and opened it, closed it, opened it, closed it. And then as I was checking out, walked over to like a roll-out piano and just began playing Beethoven.
He was diagnosed at what age with Asperger's?
Just short of 2.
Just sort of 2. Why did you take him to the doctor?
He stopped talking. He went from babbling like a regular toddler, speaking like a regular toddler, saying I love you to his mom and dad, and he completely quit.
Okay. Saying I love you to mom and dad and also saying I'm looking for the volume.
Volume of a box.
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
Right, okay. But then he stopped talking, and so you freaked out a little bit and went to the doctor, and the doctor said what?
Mrs. Barnett, your son has autism.
And what did that mean to you?
At the time, it just meant there was no hope. I talked to every doctor I could find. I talked to every therapist I could find. We don't know if he's going to talk again. We think he will always be in special ed.
But you knew the whole time that he was in there, right?
Absolutely.
And did you have any clue that he was functioning at a higher, not this level, but a higher level?
Yes, because of who he was before he stopped talking.
Okay, yeah, the volume of the cereal box might have set me off, and the piano thing, too. The message that you were receiving now from doctors and everybody else, teachers and everything else, was, well, look, his handwriting isn't real good. But you were saying, no, but look what he's writing, right? And so what is the message that you have, before we watch him in action here for a second, what is the message that you have for other families that might be exactly like you?
When you're given an overwhelming diagnosis, do not give up. When children with autism have scattered skills, and you have these skills down low on the bottom, their handwriting, tying your shoes, being coordinated on a bicycle, look for the scattered skills that are up high. Look for the math and the history, and spend an equal amount of time doing those. And also, let your child be a child. Let your child play, go fishing with them, do normal childhood experiences with your child, and then always let your child do what they love.
Child prodigies have long been a source of great fascination. We wonder, how can so much talent reside in such a young body, so much genius? In a moment, you'll meet Jake, a 13-year-old math and science prodigy who's confident he may one day challenge some of the established theories of physics. The source of that talent and that confidence comes from our most remarkable organ, the one we understand least, the brain. What is it about Jake Barnett that had him taking college courses at age 8 and getting A's, and by 12 doing paid scientific research? And today, at age 13, an honors college sophomore lecturing the crowd at his university science symposium.
And do any of you guys want my resume at all?
The untied shoelaces reveal either your average teenager or the first telltale signs of the absent-minded professor, or both.
Let's look at the system of points.
Surrounded by researchers twice his age, Jake is presenting his summer physics research project on PT symmetric lattice systems.
This has implications in fiber optics, electromagnetic signals, anything that requires like a light going through a cable. Got it?
Every number or math problem I ever hear, I have permanently remembered.
You just never forget. They never,
never
slip
forget.
out the back door of your brain.
No.
Is it fun for you to do it? I mean, do you get a kick out of it?
Yeah.
For Jake, fun is reciting from memory the infinite series of numbers known as pi.
3.14159265358979323846264338832795022.
Jake memorized more than 200 of Pi's numbers in an afternoon.
9749445923078.
And he did it just to test himself.
You want me to go backwards from there?
Well, sure.
32397985356295141.3.
Bravo. He's not just parroting a textbook. He understands and analyzes the logic of higher mathematics. He can visualize and solve complex problems by using what he calls the fourth dimension. Just exactly what is the fourth dimension?
It's hard to describe in terms of the typical 3 because it's tangent to all the other ones. I'd be able to describe it if I had like a whiteboard and like 30 minutes to describe it. It takes a while. It's the fourth dimension. What do you expect?
The numbers appear to him as shapes that he says just build on one another.
So this, for example, is 3 cubed or 27. And then if I want to do 54, I just stack another one onto it.
He says his mind is constantly buzzing with new physics problems and theories. When he runs out of wall space, he moves on to windows. Remembering things so precisely, does that ever become a burden to you?
No, not at all.
No sense of overload?
I remember math and numbers. I don't remember other things. For example, if someone asks me where something is in the house, I tell them I don't know.
The oldest of 4 kids, Jake lives with his family in the suburbs of Indianapolis.
These are my periodic table. It's got all my elements.
He used the money he made from his summer research project, $3,200, to turn his bedroom into a science lab.
Copernicus was the most recently named element.
For as long as he can remember, he's been fascinated by the mysteries of space.
Saturn is my favorite planet, not due to the rings, but due to some of its moons.
Any ambition to be an astronaut?
Not an astronaut. That's like too dangerous. I'm going to be the guy controlling the astronauts. If anyone's an astronaut, it's going to be my brother.
All work and only occasional play does not make Jake a dull boy. What do you do for fun?
When it isn't anything academic?
No, I mean beyond the academics.
Does looking up space articles online count?
Pi a cube divided.
He has a full scholarship at the joint Indiana University-Purdue campus in Indianapolis, where he is an honors student in math and physics. He may not be the tallest student on campus, but is surely among the brightest. He regularly gets the highest grades in his classes.
What happens if you have C sub n, where it's proportional to n?
Jake's been auditing classes here since the ripe old age of 8, when it became obvious to his parents that 3rd grade was not going to be enough for him. What did your fellow students make of you?
Everyone was thinking that Mom was taking the class and she couldn't find a babysitter.
The students thought I was the student.
His parents, Christine and Michael Barnett, expected their son would quietly listen and learn. But even they were shocked when Jake jumped right into scientific discussions.
The professor would ask questions and Jacob was answering them. And then he took the final at the end and got an A on it. And suddenly the people at the university took notice of that and eventually invited him to attend the university.
It's pretty shocking when an 8-year-old aces a university astronomy course. Weren't you impressed?
I guess I was impressed. I was just doing what I like to do.
No one could have predicted that Jake would even make it to college. Just before his 2nd birthday, he began to regress, stopped speaking and making eye contact. After consulting with several doctors, the diagnosis was autism.
We went through speech therapy, physical therapy, developmental therapy, occupational therapy. A therapist came to the home.
He was going further and further from our world into a world of his own. And I really was just baffled at how we were going to get him back out of that world.
And how did you get him back out of that world?
We realized that Jacob was not happy unless he was doing something he loved.
Which even as a 3-year-old was math and science. His parents say the more he focused on the subjects he loved, the more he began to communicate.
You could just see him just relax. You could just see him feel like thank goodness we're not working on something that I can't do today.
And how long did it take for him to, as you say, come back?
By the time he was kindergarten age, 5, 6, he was still behind as far as speaking with others and socializing with others. But he was also light years ahead of everybody else. He was coming home asking us, when am I going to learn something at school today? I want to learn algebra.
It was trying to keep Jake challenged that led to a kind of double life. Elementary school by day and sitting in on college courses in the evening. By 5th grade, he dropped out of public school, and just to demonstrate that he was ready for college, he taught himself all of high school math in just 2 weeks. He was 10 years old.
That was the most determined thing I've ever seen anybody do. He had to sit in a calculus class to prove to the university that he could sit still. And Jacob was like, I'm going to participate in that class discussion. So if I need to learn Algebra 1, Algebra 2, Geometry, Trig, that's what I'm going to do. And he took a stack of books and he sat down and he just
went and taught himself all of it in 2 weeks.
Not only that, he finished the entire state of Indiana curriculum for grades 6 to 12 in little over a year. The Barnetts, who've started a center for autistic kids called Jacob's Place, say that many of Jake's symptoms of autism have disappeared.
There are certain traits that are still there, and if you really, really knew what you were looking for, you could dig them out. But otherwise, you know, that I got a 10-year-old kid at that point in time that just happens to be doing next level work and no one knew anything different.
Your parents told us that you're very proud of your autism.
That, I believe, is the reason why I am in college and I am so successful. It is the rise as to my love for math and science and astronomy, and it's the reason why I care. Otherwise, I wouldn't have gotten this far.
Joanne Ruthsath, a psychology professor at Ohio State, has been studying child prodigies for the last 13 years. She believes there's a link between autism and prodigies.
We know that child prodigies are having autistic relatives at a very high clip, and some of them have autism themselves.
She believes that what sets a prodigy with autism apart from other children with the condition is the prodigy's genes have been modified so that the genius emerges without many of the severe disabilities associated with autism.
In the general population of autism, 10% will have an autistic savant skill where they're exceptional at something. And they've only got that piece displaying itself.
She says for prodigies, be it in math, music, or art, the key to the extraordinary talent is extraordinary memory.
They all share this incredible memory, each and every one of them.
In Jake's case, he's 13 years old. What's remarkable is not just this memory, but his vocabulary is so adult.
Of course, they speak like adults. They've picked up so much information along the way so early in their life and continue to do so.
She says a talent like Jake's is about 1 in 10 million.
Jake's extraordinary. He's picking up information at a rate that none of us could even imagine doing it.
She's tested Jake and says he literally aces every intelligence and memory test.
Imagine if everything you saw you could remember. Every word you heard, you could recall that. And then you could integrate that information and come up with new ideas. That's what he's doing.
Kentucky, New Mexico,
A demonstration.
Nevada,
Dr. Ruthsath named 28
Florida,
states in random order.
Pennsylvania, Wisconsin,
No surprise, he
North
was able to
Dakota,
do it forwards
Washington,
and backwards in sequence
Missouri,
with ease. And when asked again 3 months later, you still remember them
Yes, I do.
in the same order?
And I can still go backwards.
And backwards? Give me 5 or 10.
Kentucky, New Mexico, Nevada, Florida, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, North Dakota, Washington, Missouri, Texas, Utah, Colorado.
While some may dismiss Jake's talent as simply a gift of remarkable memory, his physics professor says the boy is much more than a human calculator. Is it just great memory or something else?
It is definitely something else. The great memory does help him, of course, because once he reads something, he remembers it. But what is more important is that he has the drive to learn more. He definitely stands out as a powerhouse of raw talent.
Professor Yogesh Joglekar oversaw Jake's research project. Their work was published in Physical Review A. Jake is the youngest person to be published in that prestigious physics journal.
The whole randomness thing, that's like completely